This week on ANN, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency steps in after an underground volcanic eruption on the island nation of Tonga.
The new publishing house is dedicated in the Philippines.
And later, we sit down with Health Ministries Director for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, Dr. Peter Landless, about the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, the Adventist Development and Relief Agency, or ADRA, stands ready to respond to needs in Tonga as more details emerge of the extent of the damage caused by a volcanic eruption and tsunami on January 15.
While communication remains limited due to damage caused to the undersea communication cable, the Tongan government has issued its first official update describing the situation as an unprecedented disaster.
To date, there are 3 confirmed fatalities and a number of injuries have also been reported. Some of the smaller islands have suffered the worst damage, including Mango Island, where all the houses have been destroyed. Only 2 houses remain on Fonoifua Island, and there has also been extensive damage on Nomuka Island.
ADRA Director for the South Pacific Division, Greg Young, says, "Our hearts and prayers go out to all those in Tonga impacted by this event. ADRA is monitoring the situation closely. We have established a virtual emergency response team ready to support the Tongan people."
Flooding has damaged homes, churches, and other public infrastructure. Some Adventist church buildings have been impacted, including the Tonga Mission Headquarters located in the foreshore area of the capital, Nuku'alofa, on the main island of Tonga Tapu.
Young said he received word from the Tonga Mission Office that the mission president's residence and another house on site had suffered significant damage. However, he said, "We are thankful to God that no lives have been lost and the mission president and his family are safe."
For more information and to keep up with the story, visit record.adventistchurch.com.
On January 19, the Philippine Publishing House officially moved to its new home in Silang, Cavite, Philippines.
Faced with the worldwide pandemic situation, the inauguration program was held both virtually and on site. Adventist leadership from the Adventist Church in the Southern Asia-Pacific region, the 3 local administrative fields in the Philippines, literature ministry seminaries, and literature evangelists joined the dedication ceremony of the new publishing facility.
The Southern Asia-Pacific Division sent us this report.
Who would have thought that a makeshift job press in a broken-down stall would become one of Asia's largest Adventist publishing houses? A century and 8 years later, established in a foundation filled with testimonies and rich history, the Philippine Publishing House officially moved to its new home in Silang, Cavite, Philippines on January 19, 2022. Faced by the worldwide pandemic situation, the inauguration program was held both virtually and on-site. Adventist leadership from the division, the Philippine Tri-Union Office, Literature Ministry Seminaries, and Literature Evangelists joined the dedication ceremony of the new publishing facility. Florante T., in his welcome message, expressed his utmost gratitude to those who supported and believed. "There is still work to be done. The work is not yet finished. There will always be challenges, but the Philippine Publishing House will continue to publish books that more people will get to know Jesus soon return. The Lord's work shouldn't be hindered because of human factors, because the Lord is generous. God provides," T added. Samuel Saw, president of the Southern Asia-Pacific Division, a believer of the publishing works movement and effectivity, articulated his astonishment to what faith can do in the Lord's work. "Let us keep going, let us keep moving and conquering. Whether the outlook seems promising or discouraging, wherever God takes us, whatever He asks of us, whoever He chooses to lead us, we will continue to serve," Saw expressed. After a successful inauguration and planned tour organized for attending delegates and guests in the convocation, the Philippine Publishing House prepares for its 12th PPH constituency meeting. The House's constituency meeting is held every 5 years. However, due to the pandemic, the meeting was rescheduled in sync with the new building's inauguration. Florantiti, PPH president for 16 years, already expressed his decision to retire and let the younger generations continue PPH's legacy. Alongside T, who decided to pass the baton to the next set of visionaries, are Mr. Ray Balboa, Human Resource Director and Assistant Marketing, and Mr. Atemio Jimenez, Vice President for Finance. After ardent prayers by PPH's nominating committee and delegates, elected individuals are finally named to lead the Philippine Publishing House. Newly elected Philippine Publishing House officers are Leonardo Hiasa Jr., President, Joel Silva, VP Finance, Gomer Vistal, VP Marketing, Carlito Quidet Jr., VP Editorial Services, Albert Esperanzate, VP Operations for HHES and ABC, and Jose Bruel, VP Production. The newly elected leaders were dedicated and prayed for by division and union leaders as they set out to perform their new task for this new quinquennium.
A wellness center was recently inaugurated by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Chiapas, Mexico.
The new facility, Centro de Vida Sana, Dr. Filiberto Verduzco Avila will provide natural remedies and preventative medicine focused on holistic health care for the mind, body, and spirit.
Dozens of local and national church administrators, leaders, and members attended the inauguration ceremony in Tuxtla Gutierrez on December 20, 2021.
President of the Adventist Church in Chiapas, Mexico, Ignacio Navarro said, "This is a very special moment to inaugurate a center such as this. The center belongs to the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Mexico and the Inter-America Division. It's a missionary space in the city of Tuxtla Gutierrez, where the plan of God to restore his creation will be presented and the soon coming of Jesus will be announced."
Navarro said the Wellness Center has three particular characteristics. It features the church's I Want to Live Healthy registered trademark, bears the name of Filiberto Verduzco, treasurer for the church in Inter-America, and will be a place to serve anyone in Chiapas and throughout the country.
I Want to Live Healthily is a registered trademark lifestyle initiative created by the Adventist Church in Inter-America that promotes the 8 natural remedies.
Leaders chose to name it after Verduzco Avila for his inspiring leadership in the fulfillment of the mission, explained Navarro.
Vida Sana Center began construction in 2018 as the church in Chiapas dedicated its missionary initiatives and activities to health for the entire year. The center will be able to care for 100 patients at a time and is fully functional as soon as the remaining permits are finalized, church leaders said.
The facility features hydrotherapy pools, saunas, a gym, dining room, 9 rooms and suites, medical and administrative offices, a chapel, outdoor auditorium, and park. It is the second wellness center recognized by the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Mexico.
Las Canoas Vida Sana, founded by Dr. Tomas Ramirez, has been operating as a sanatorium for decades in Montemorelos, Nuevo León.
Dr. Ramirez, who is retired, was honored for his work as an educator of preventive medicine. He always dreamed of seeing a wellness center in Chiapas. Church leaders unveiled the name of the park that bears his name outside the center.
President of the church in Inter-America, Ellie Henry, toured the center and congratulated the church and its leaders for building such a beautiful center that represents God.
Coming up, with the COVID pandemic continuing around the world, we sat down with the Health Ministries Director for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church to talk about how we can continue being safe and protect those around us.
We'll be right back after the break.
Hi, VL. How are you? Are you okay?
Dear VL, I can't even remember how long we've been staying at home now because of this virus. For now, it's just nice to hear your voice and see your face. Nothing beats playing outside in the dirt though. Which reminds me.
Are your hands clean? Yes!
Mommy and Daddy says not a lot of kids get COVID-19, but it's always nice to be extra safe.
We should wash our hands before picking our nose.
Washing our hands protects us, but it also keeps us from spreading the virus. In case we touch something dirty,
Let's always be clean and safe, okay?
love, Joey.
Welcome back.
With the COVID-19 pandemic lingering and new variants coming one right after the other, it seems like we have long passed COVID fatigue.
We sat down with Health Ministries Director for the Seventh-day Adventist Church, Dr. Peter Landless, to talk about how to maintain a healthy lifestyle during COVID and how to build up our resilience.
Dr. Landless, thank you so much for joining us today on ANN. We're so happy to have you.
It's my privilege as always to be with you, Jennifer.
Dr. Landless, we want to talk about this continuing pandemic that we're in, but I want to make this conversation very practical. I think there's a lot of conversations around us that are bigger, but we're gonna take this to a very practical level today. I want to talk to you about masking. I want to talk to you about resilience and testing. So we're gonna just kind of go through it on this very short interview that we have.
Sure.
Right now we're in what feels like, I think, the 70,000th variant of COVID. I know it's not, but that's what it feels like. And they're now recommending that we wear different kinds of masks, new masks. What do you tell people is the best mask to wear right now?
You know, probably the best mask of those which are being talked about, surgical mask KN95, is the N95 mask. That is shown to be, it's tested to be the most protective of them. Why? Because it protects and filters out. If it's non-oil, that's what the N stands for, N95. The non-oil particles get filtered out, 95% of them, even the tiny ones. So that's of great encouragement. The surgical masks are also very helpful. And some of the cloth masks, which are like this and are lined and are washable, those too are helpful. I think the things we need to avoid are just having a plain cloth across the face. Although what I was really driving to right to the beginning when you asked, what is the very best mask? The best one is the one you use. But obviously you're asking the question of all of those which are being sold and touted and even now given out, the KN95, the N95 group are the best group to use. And the importance of that, not only that they are a very good quality of filtration, but people need to be sure that the masks are fitting and not leaking.
I have my KN95 mask right here. And I'm wondering, how often can I wear this? Now, it's not like the cloth mask where I can take it home and wash it. I've had some guilt about throwing these away every day, but you actually before were giving me a little bit of hope before we pushed record. How often can I wear this mask?
When you look at the manufacturer's instructions, they'll say to you, well, up to 40 hours, for example. Read what they say about their product. But if you go then to the CDC and other recognized information providers, you will find, and I saw this interestingly today because, I really like us to have up-to-date best information when we talk on ANN and when we talk any place, in fact. And what you can do, you can take your mask, an N95 mask that you've worn for a day at the office, and people who are in common open offices, common area open offices, would probably wear their masks more often depending on the barriers which are around. But I estimated just the other day when I was on a flight to Guam, that I wore my mask in airports. I changed. I had various masks. I wore a mask for 28 hours.
Wow.
And even when I was sleeping in the plane or trying to sleep in the plane. So you can take your mask after a day at work, put it in a brown paper bag. And of course, if it's gotten extremely wet or contaminated by nasal mucus, or you've maybe coughed into it a lot, then maybe you should throw it away. But if it's pretty clean, and this is one that I have worn another day, that's the inside of it. It's pretty clean, and the outside of it. And put it in the brown paper bag, or a white paper bag if you wish, and just write on today is Wednesday, and then use a fresh mask tomorrow, and do the same process when you get home. And then Friday you may want to use a different one, and then rotate them. That's going to be a way to use masks, keeping them safe. And I think the important areas are to make sure that they're not sodden or wet, or the other thing, provided one is not either sickening with COVID or have not fully recovered from COVID, sensitive to smell. If the mask doesn't smell good, throw it away.
Okay.
And I found
that's great advice.
That's important because, it's just it's a built-in defense mechanism.
Yeah, that's great advice. Because I do feel kind of guilty. And for us, for the, you can tell you've worn it for the women because sometimes we have a little bit of makeup in there.
Well,
Dr.
people who see that are looking too close.
Yeah, exactly. And on the wrong side of the mask. Dr. Landless, right now here, at least here in the United States, in some parts of the United States, it's hard to find testing. I wanted to ask you, if I'm not feeling good, we know that some of the symptoms of the new variant that we're living with right now is Omicron, that there's more of a cold-like feeling, a headache, maybe stuffy nose. If I'm not feeling good and I can't find testing, what would you recommend I do?
Well, if you cannot be tested, then monitor yourself at home. Stay at home. Do not go into the office. Try and self-quarantine. Just keep yourself away from people. Warn family members, and then take temperature. I just hope everybody has a thermometer. It's nice if you can have one of these electronic ones, but if you have one that goes under the tongue as well, have a thermometer. If it's battery operated, make sure you have batteries for it, and have that at home. The other thing which I would encourage our viewers to have is a pulse oximeter. That's a little machine that you just put on your finger, and if you're coughing and if you're feeling sick, this is not for self-diagnosis, but if you see that your oxygen saturations, that's what the pulse oximeter measures. If you see that those are dropping, then you can test them. But you ask the question, what should we do? Stay at home, do the necessary precautions of staying away from others, continue washing your hands, do all those good things. And then, if you can't get a formal test, or you have to wait a day or 2 or 3 to get that done, the over-the-counter tests are very helpful. And there's a lot of conversation about that as well. But the over-the-counter tests can give us an indication. They're not 100% foolproof. No, they're not. We can get false negatives and you can get false positives. The worrying ones mostly are the false negatives, because that can lull us into a sense of security. Well, I'm negative, but if you're negative and you have a temperature and you have a runny nose and you have a cough, you shouldn't be with people anyway, because it could be flu, and you could have a flu antigen test, just a plain simple test like that, as you can have an antigen test for COVID, which is a very available 15 to 45 minutes, and you have an answer.
Yeah, and that's why you mask, because it's one of the reasons why you mask, because if we're not showing symptoms and our COVID tests come back negative, then it's an extra layer of protection to protect those around us, because really what we're trying to do is, to the best of our ability, not only protect ourselves, but protect the people who we love.
Coming up, Michael Yonker is here for This Week in Adventist History.
But up next, Adventist Mission shares a video about the importance of serving in the big cities.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system: the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the 7th-day Sabbath. The first 6 columns of the grid belong to the designer. They can be filled with anything: text, images, illustrations, patterns, and logos. But the 7th column, the Sabbath column, does not belong to them. It is meant to be different and special. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
What if you are called to serve God in a large city and you don't know where to start?
In many of the largest cities in the world, there are only a handful of Adventist members among millions of residents.
Adventist Mission has more.
One of the biggest mission challenges today is that of the call to reach the cities. Many of the world's largest cities are in the least reached parts of the world, where few Adventist members or Christians from any background are living. But even in countries where the church has a strong presence, the large cities have very few Adventist members. In the book, Ministry to the Cities, Ellen White wrote, "When the cities are worked as God would have them, the result will be the setting and operation of a mighty movement." No doubt, this is something we would all love to see. So what if you hear God's call to help reach a city, but you don't know where to begin? Ellen White offered this wisdom from the life of Jesus. Christ's method alone will give true success in reaching the people. The Savior mingled with men as one who desired their good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to their needs, and won their confidence. Then he bade them, "Follow me." As we set out to reach the cities, the best thing we can do is follow Christ's method. There are many groups of people you could choose to reach out to in your city. You could reach out to new moms or to university students. You could reach out to the homeless or to the wealthy. Perhaps you have a heart to serve your city's most vulnerable residents. If so, here are some ideas of how you could serve in your city. First, you could offer assistance to struggling families with new babies through a clothing lending library, as church members have done in Auckland, New Zealand. Or you could provide furniture to refugees when they arrive in your area. Adventists in Atlanta in the United States have made a big difference for many families in this way. Maybe you want to offer cooking and nutrition classes to children, as is being done in Haifa, Israel. These children will build skills that will help them grow strong and healthy. Or offer homeless people a place to wash their clothes, to shower, and to get a healthy meal. Adventists in Guatemala City, Guatemala are serving in this simple but life-changing way. You could also hold regular activities for people with Alzheimer's or for their caregivers. The church in Taipei, Taiwan, serves its residents in this beautiful way. If you'd like to learn more about these projects or get more ideas for serving the most vulnerable, visit the Mission to the Cities website and click Serve Your City. Find ways you can serve and pray that others will also get involved. Using Christ's method and empowered by His Spirit, we will reach the cities. Then watch out, because as we already know, the result will be the setting in motion of a mighty movement.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting AdventistMission.org, then click on videos at the top.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to Michael Yonker for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we'll hear about Dr. Walter Thompson, who courageously served in Guam during a typhoon.
This week in Adventist history, we're glad to celebrate the heroic character that many of our missionaries have had, even under the most trying circumstances. It was on January 25, 1963, that the 7th Guam legislature commended Dr. Walter Thompson for his courage, calmness, and fortitude during the Typhoon Karen that struck the island on November 11, 1962, the most destructive in its history. The citation for his courage expressed gratitude to the SDA Guam Clinic for providing low-cost medical assistance to all in the territory needing the same, without regard for race, color, or creed, all of which is in the highest traditions of the American missionary movement, as the Guam legislature understood us. As noted at the time in the Far Eastern Division Outlook, during the storm, Dr. Thompson delivered a baby, and while the Guam Memorial Hospital was crumbling around him, he led 30 women with their newborn babies in their arms to safety from the 4th floor of the hospital down to the basement. In the days following, Dr. Thompson also helped at the Naval Hospital, where he saw patients free of charge, while those on the island recovered from what one described as a scene worthy of Jeremiah's description of the desolate earth during the millennium. Also this week, and worthy of remembrance, the Adventist pioneer John Norton Loughborough was born on January 26, 1832. Converted into the church by John and Andrews in 1852, Loughborough served in many capacities and locations throughout his life, including in the Western United States and England. Importantly for our purposes today, he was also the author of the 1892 book, The Rise and Progress of the Seventh-day Adventists, the very first denominational history. And that is this week in Adventist history.
Thanks for watching, ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Did you know the Adventist Church has a YouTube channel where you can watch ANN Video, ANN In Depth, and plenty other amazing videos on prophecy, health, and Bible study?
Just go to YouTube and search for the Adventist Church. Click the subscribe button to make sure you're caught up each week.
And remember, leave a comment or a prayer request. We have people who are praying for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Psalms, chapter 107, verses 8 and 9.
The passage says, "Let them give thanks to the Lord for his unfailing love and his wonderful deeds for mankind, for he satisfies the thirsty and fills the hungry with good things."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit Adventist.news for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.